What's up, everybody? It's your girl, Michelle Renee from IamMichelleRenee.com. And today I have a very, very special guest. I say that about all my guests, but this one is extra special because she's from my hometown, y'all. She's from my hometown of Raymond, Mississippi. I am so excited to have Dr. Erica Davis with me. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am wonderful. I'm so excited to have you here. Speaking on this platform, I'm more excited because I rep Mississippi all the time. I'm gonna be a Mississippi girl to the day I die, and to know that I get to talk to someone from my hometown that's not a relative, because I did have my sister-in-law, but to have someone who's not related to me that is making such an impact. I'm so excited to have you. So thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to speak with me. I appreciate you.
Us, thank you.
My pleasure. So tell everybody who you are, where you are, because we know you from Raymond. We know you from Raytown. Tell us where you're located now and what it is that you do.
I'm in Houston, Texas. I am a pediatrician, general pediatrician. I work for a larger organization, Texas Children's Hospital, one of its affiliate clinics, and I do outpatient care. And
Nice.
let me see, I've been doing this for 12, going on 13 years.
13 years as a physician. That's absolutely amazing. And I got to tell a quick backstory. So, of course, we're from the same town. And if you know anything about Raymond, which most people probably don't, we only have one high school, one elementary school, and one middle school. When we went to elementary and middle school, it was one school, K through 8. So we were all together for a very, very long time. And I was just telling Dr. Davis before we got on that I admired her growing up. Like, I always looked up to you and your sisters as bigger sisters, right? I have a big sister, but you all were in that same like age group. You know, you were in band. You were the person that every time honor roll rolled around, we were gonna see your name come across that space. And that's one of those things that as a little girl, I don't know what other little girls look up to. I hope that my daughters look up to people who are smart and intelligent, that are making positive impacts. I pray that those are the kind of role models that they seek out at school, or that those are the kind of role models that they're being at school. So I have to tell you, thank you for being a role model for me, because I looked at how you were always praised for your intelligence, and it made me want to receive that kind of praise. Because sometimes we look at young women, and that's not the image that's being portrayed. You see the girls being highlighted because of everything but being smart. And it's always been this thing like girls can't be smart.
Being popular or what they look like or that type of thing. Yeah, I mean, we were like a small community, and we knew everybody. Everybody there still knows everybody.
Yep.
Um, Everybody had their role. You were the football player, the smart girl. I mean, that's in every high school. It's just that we stayed together as a group. Some people even younger, from Head Start
Mm-hmm.
all the way through junior college. It's the same group of people. So we definitely carved our lanes in that space, and then some of us kind of expanded our spaces afterwards, and which is good because we got to take on new identities that we wanted to, but pull some of those things from our upbringing that are deeply entrenched as we move throughout the country. We still always have Mississippi and Raymond with us.
Exactly. People wonder why I have the spirit that I have of love and community. And I know that our upbringing had a lot to do with that. From the way of being raised and being a part of the band and being a band parent or a band family member or the little sister of the band, or being that our schools were not big. We didn't have thousands of people that attended our schools. We only had a few hundred, if that. You learn everybody, and you got to know the people in your community. And if one person in your community was hurting, everybody was hurting, or if one person is celebrating, everybody is celebrating. So when I see different instances, and I think it's also because we grew up kind of a little bit further off from everybody else. Like, you didn't grow up in a neighborhood where yeah, yeah, there were no suburbs.
Outside of Raymond. So we were outside of the country even.
Right, right. So I tell people all the time, I was like, well, I say I grew up in Raymond, but I almost grew up in Utica. I really grew up in this place called Lebanon. It's not incorporated because it's in between the two places. It's right outside of Learned, which is also a small place.
That was called Lebanon. So you just taught me the history.
Yes. Yes, it's not even, it doesn't have a zip code, doesn't have anything like that, but it's this little space in between Raymond and Utica, and that's really where we live. So it's always funny to hear that. But tell everybody a little bit of how you got your journey and your start in medicine and why you chose pediatrics, because I've known, as long as I've known you, that you wanted to be a doctor and that you were going to be a doctor. So how did that even start as a little girl? Like, what vision did you get to know that that's what you wanted to do in Raymond, Mississippi?
Well, I think I didn't know any. I knew black doctors by the time I was in junior high, maybe. But I think as a kid, a lot of us want to be the professions you're exposed to.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe what your parent does, or all kids go visit a pediatrician, so you see them, you see the dentist, and so which is one reason it's important to do mentorship programs, because you tend to see things, and that's what you start. You got to give yourself a direction. So I think I said as I was young. So my grandmother was a nurse. Um, she was a nurse way back when. Like, she went to, there was a whole different training program for them back then, because we're talking about the 1930s in Mississippi. So there was a colored hospital.
That's a wow moment, right?
There was a colored hospital in the Delta. I have to look up the name of it for you. But they had two doctors who trained the females to be nurses. And they were licensed nurses, not medical assistants. They were licensed nurses, but they had to go to the Delta, go through this program. That's where they trained. And they came back and they began to, work in the colored hospitals. Or sometimes, I think my grandmother was the first black nurse at St. Dominic's.
Wow.
In the OR. So, but she also delivered all the babies in West Jackson. So she wasn't a midwife, but she knew how to deliver babies. And so I always knew that we had that background. And then my sister went into podiatry. So that's like another push. I had a cousin who was a dentist in St. Louis. I said I was going to do medicine. I didn't really have any draw to anything outside of medicine. Like, I didn't ever feel like I was going to work in an office, like a traditional setting, like cubicle type setting. And then I went to college, majoring in biology. I told myself, though, if this MCAT don't do right, I'm gonna figure something out, because I will take this joint one time. And if it don't work out on that first go round, I'm gonna have to figure something else out, because it was torture, getting through that part of it.
Right.
The year was really intense in college. Like, it was nonstop from 6 o'clock in the morning to 2 o'clock in the morning. I might be studying, and I had mates that majored in other majors that were lighter weight. So I spent a lot of time in the library by myself. I missed all the good stuff that was going on. I made it to a few Greek shows, but a lot of stuff I missed out on. And it worked out. I did what I needed to do to get into med school. In preparation for that, though, I did spend time with others in the profession. So I remember I spent the summer in New Orleans with my sister, and I just got the phone book and I started calling doctors in the yellow pages that sounded black. Okay, so I looked up nutrition, and the lady's name was Janet something. I was like, she sound black, I'm gonna call her. And I was like, hey, I'm here for the summer, and I want to know if I could shadow you. She didn't know me from Adam. I'm not even from New Orleans. I was just there for like 2 months. And I just called her and said, can I come work with you? And she was like, okay. Because a lot of times people will, if you're bold enough to ask.
They're bold enough to accept.
Right. So she said, okay, come on. And there I was, driving to the hospital next day to meet this woman I didn't know. And she was on one side, she was a pediatrician. Her husband was internal medicine on the other side. I saw my first C-section with her. I almost passed out. And then I was like,
you knew OB was not your thing, right?
But it was a small hospital. And it was twins. So it's a lot going on when twins come out. And there was a lot of fluids coming out. And I was like, whoa, I got a little dizzy. So, and she was like, you okay? You want to go back? You want to go sit down? I was like, no, I'm good. I'm here. So that was exciting though. The fact that it excited me, it didn't scare me.
Yeah.
And then, so I continued to look for opportunities like that when I was in school. And then, you get to medical school, and there's some people who get to medical school and really still don't know what they want to do.
Mhm.
I thought pediatrician, and then I kind of like wavered a little bit because I was like, well, I'm good at psychiatry, and the OBs want me to go this way. So I did extra, what we call rotations in some of those areas to see. And I discovered OB was not for me. Not because of blood, but just because I'm a person who I need a predictable schedule. I can't uh I can't go into a procedure that's supposed to take an hour and ends up being 5 hours because I'm gonna get hungry and I gotta go to the bathroom, and this just ain't it's not my walk. It's not my ministry. I can't. This is not working for me, and it's just not gonna work. So I was like, okay, cross that off the list, and let's go back to the original plan. Let's stick with peds. Children are just a lot more. For one, you don't deal with a lot of morbidity and mortality. The children tend to recover a lot. It's very sad when they don't recover, but for the most part, we don't deal with that aspect as much
Right.
as you do with the older population. But when it does happen, it hurts a lot more. Um, and then also, I mean, children, I laugh a lot, and you can't do that as much with adult patients because they're a lot more serious.
Yeah, they're like, I don't want my doctor joking and playing all the time. Like, be happy, but I need you to be serious. So yes.
Kids, they can be mad at you for like doing something, squeezing an abscess or something, and then you say you want a sticker or a lollipop, and they cool again. Like it just goes away. It's like no harm done. They see you again the next week, and they don't have a problem with you. So
Yeah.
it's so much more forgiving. It just in the way we practice medicine, like I said, they really bounce back really well. And then just in personality, like they move past stuff so easy, and it's just a really lightweight, carefree environment to work in. If you have to go to work, it's a good place to be to work.
That's good.
So I stuck with that, and it's been 13 years. I've been in my current practice for like 6 years, and I hope to retire from the same location. Sometimes it's a little bit daunting. Like I'm literally gonna walk through this door every day for the rest of my career. Like it's kind of boring sometimes when you think about it, but I really don't. You get a following of people, and you don't want to start over again and abandon that. As it is now, I have some people that I've known, from like age 6 or 7. Now they're off at college. I've had a few people that were older when I started, and now they come back with their kids. So you start to build relationships that are,
Yeah.
and then you can't walk away from that.
And I think that's beautiful because I know how important it is to have that kind of relationship with my children's pediatrician. And I want a pediatrician that can relate to not just my children's medical understanding, but also their cultural understanding. Like that's important to me. So I need them to know, what we experience as young Black women. I'm a girl mom. So I want somebody who I like the idea of having a Black woman doctor deal with my girls because they can help prepare not just on the medical portion that they've learned, but also on the life portion that they've learned. And you're able to apply those different things. So I think that's really, really powerful. And to understand kind of like how you got into it, I think that's extremely bold because I don't remember. And I think I might just have a skewed view. I always pictured you as being this shy, kind of soft spoken, more mild mannered, young person, and to hear you kind of stepping out and being like, I'll do it scared. I'm gonna do it though. Like I'm not gonna stop doing it. Like it may frighten me a little bit, but I'm gonna keep on trying. So that's such a profound way to look at things and a way to approach things.
Yeah, you have to. I remember in Starkville. Now, I probably was quieter in elementary and junior high because if you can remember some of our teachers, it was best to just be quiet.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Keep it moving because you don't want no problems.
Yep.
But as I got older and we were able to be more independent, I think I became a lot more vocal outside of that space when there was an appropriate time. So I remember being in college at Mississippi State, and this is something that I tell people too. When you are, for us, it was our first time really being around, being in the minority. Is going to Starkville, which for me I think was important to do because it was more reflective of where I would end up, and I had been in a bubble of protection for so long,
Yep.
that it was time to hear about this world that I had already been hearing about, and
That
hadn't
we
actually,
only heard about, right?
right. Because I grew up in a space where teachers were black, principals were black, sheriffs, mayors, there was
Mm-hmm.
thought. So to go to that space, I think it was a good time to do that, to kind of learn about, how stuff was set up in other places. And I remember being in a, well, he didn't tell me this at the time, but I was talking to one of my biology professors. I used to, not have nothing to do, go by his office and chit chat. And he said, I remember the first day of class. He was a notorious professor, Ronald Altig, for anybody who went to Mississippi State. He taught some of the science classes. Real Darwin looking dude. Like he looked like a scientist. And he said that the first day of class, he comes in with this really gruff attitude or whatever. I had Mr. Durham. I'm not scared of that. I had
Right.
Mr. Durham. Whatever. And he always came in doing his little bark and whatever else. And then at the end, he asked any questions. So this is now months later. He says, I do the same thing every year. And when I ask any questions, you raise your hand and said, do I need to buy the book or are we just going to get everything we need in class? I mean, I'm trying to, so, and he said after he dismissed us, he ran down the hall to one of the biology counselor people. He said, who was that girl? And she told him, he said, in all of my years here, I've never had a black kid raise their hand on the first day of class and ask anything.
Wow.
So, like a year later, he told me that story, and I was like, really? But, some of that, being bold was because I had come from that bubble of protection where I was one of the special ones. I got to do stuff that other people couldn't do and, not get in trouble for it. So I felt like I did have a voice because I had always been able to have one. And, but to him, I couldn't believe, and that stuck with me. That stuck out of his head that he was like, I've been a teacher for 30 years here, and no black kid has ever asked a question on the first day of class. He's like, maybe eventually later on, but never when I say any questions the first day has a black child ever raised their hand. And I was like,
Let's pause for that though and let it sink in that you didn't go to college in the 70s.
no, we're talking about 1999, 2000 before I got to his class. Yeah, we're talking about in the 99, 2000.
99, 2000, because I was right behind. I came there, I was there 2000, 2001. That's my freshman year. So to think about that and just go,
Yeah,
that's a reality.
it's
That's
a
a
reality.
reality.
And we have to have our children feel confident enough to talk to anybody. Yes, we have to teach them the rules about, if you get pulled over or if this happens and that happens. But in certain spaces, you have to speak up. And it's like this, there's no such thing as a stupid question. I was literally asking because, look, I'm trying to budget out my money. So I'm trying to see what I need to buy and what I really don't need to buy. Because some of y'all don't teach out the book. So just let me know today.
Please don't waste my time and my money. Like, let me know what I need to do. So I get it.
Look, let me know. Do I really need this book or not?
Right. So you just led in perfectly to what I was gonna ask, which is like, what do you think, or how important do you think it is for us to make sure that we're providing that space for our kids to be able to ask questions? Because you talked about mentorship and you talked about, going into a space to learn a little bit more about who you are and who you would be dealing with as a minority in medicine. Why or how can we make sure that those conversations are happening so that you aren't the only or one of 12 black girls or black men from Raymond, Mississippi, or Mississippi period to go and become a physician? How do we normalize us being in the medical field?
Well, I think it's becoming more normalized, but really, for like, for example, for me, a lot of it came outside of school. Um, I was I was prompted by my mom. Always found stuff for me to do during the summer. So every summer I went somewhere. I spent summer after sixth grade and seventh grade. I was at University Medical Center, and so I got a lot of exposure there. And then I went to Tulu, and then I went to Jackson State, and then I went here, I went there. So it's really, and those spaces are not as prevalent as they once were, where we used to do a lot of minority medical stuff and just minority enhancement programs during the summer for high school students, junior high students. They still exist, but parents really have to look for them because guidance counselors aren't necessarily going to just jump up and hand them out. You know, especially if it's something that's geared toward a subset of people. It's hard for a guidance counselor to promote something that's only accepting Black and Latino students at a school where there's everybody. You know, so community leaders and parents really have to promote those opportunities because they still do exist. And you have to give children exposure to things. And then if you can't find a program, then you have to start just calling people and just asking because there are a lot of people who will do it. So that's one of the things that I think is important is parents taking ownership of looking for those spaces for their children.
Okay, I agree totally. That's something that needs to happen.
It can definitely, it doesn't matter what they want to do. I've had patients that I told before, kids that can cook really well. Like, go ask, follow somebody in one of these 5-star restaurants. Tell them you'll work for free for for spring break, just so you can be in that space and see. Or one of these fancy cake decorators who makes wedding cakes. Can I just come work for you for my spring break? No pay. I just want to see how you do it. And I mean, people will do it. So children have to be bold enough to ask. They know how to use their computers. Get on Instagram and find somebody local who's doing something that you think is cool and find out how to do it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think we also have to teach them that there's nothing wrong with gaining experience over finances. Like you just said that, can I work with you? Not get paid, spend my spring break with you. Like I think we have to teach our kids how important it is to just gain that experience. Like a lot of what you're going to get is more valuable
Right.
than
The
getting
concept,
paid.
have to understand the concept of investment, like short-term gains versus long-term gains. You
Right.
know, the skill, and you may not gotten paid this week, but if you work with this skill, you might be able to open up your own and just like, make things for people in your high school or whatever. Long-term gain is going to be a lot better. So that's part of financial literacy too, though, teaching them about short-term versus long-term gain. So a lot of that is, we rely on schools for a lot, but schools can't do everything.
Exactly.
A lot of that has to come from the community and from the household as far as empowering children to be contributors and producers and not just consumers.
Exactly. Exactly. I think that's so powerful to know because it's what I feel like a lot of what your parents poured into you is what really helped to drive you to be able to do the things that you desire to do. It wasn't just because like I don't feel like I know we had some teachers that were team Erica, but I'm pretty sure it's the motivation that you got from home more than
Right,
anything that made you confident.
right,
I think
right.
I try to make sure I pour into my kids and I share that with them, but I also share the importance of us having those conversations with our children about what do you want to do? What are you interested in? Paying attention to the things that they like and then exposing them to the even more.
Yeah, yeah. It's key. I mean, there's a lot of jobs that people don't even consider because you never see that person that does it. Like, being a mortician, nobody ever thinks about that, you know. Um, but it's needed. And then you find out that the people who do mortuary science, they also do organ harvesting for transplants, and they do this and they do that. It's not just the funeral home, and it's a very stable field.
Yeah,
So
very.
uh, yeah. So I think that as a collective, it's also important too for us as adults, even if you don't have children, to show people what you're doing. to have an avenue. Like it's good what you're doing because you're allowing people to talk about what they do, and then somebody might view it and put something else in their mind they hadn't thought about before. So, and all of us have connections. Like we all know people who do something.
Mhm.
So really utilizing those connections. That's what every other culture does. They really utilize their connections, and not for nepotism or anything. But we all know somebody who could tell you more or could show you more about this or that, and we have to use our community connections to really get people a path to follow.
I totally agree. I think we had gotten to a place in our culture where you didn't people don't want to help or didn't want to see another person get it without struggling the way they did. And that's the wrong mentality. That's like
Yeah,
a very, very destructive mentality.
miles through the snow, and y'all got it so easy.
Yeah.
Type thing.
And I'm like, but the whole purpose of you walking that trek is so the
Yeah,
next person doesn't. Like,
yeah,
why have a person go through all of that and experience all the hardship that comes with it when they
yeah.
don't have to? Like, that doesn't make sense. So I think, I appreciate you saying something about the platform because it's important to highlight what we do. And I want to be able to show that there are Black women doing things in every walk of life from every, part of the globe that's making an impact, and that we can together collaboratively we can create the network so that young Black women can see what they can do and really envision it. And when I think about my girls, it's like, okay, they hear the interviews and they watch me when I get ready to edit them and post them. I'm writing about it and they're like, Mom, I didn't know you knew somebody that did this. And I'm like, yeah, I do. I want to know about that. I'm like, you do? Okay, well, let's talk about it. We'll see if we can make those connections. That's important. So now with us having all this technology and having the internet and access to everything, there's no reason that we're not able to make those connections.
Yeah. And if you could get children to ask one simple question, um, and even adults actually to ask one simple question when you see something that you admire or you like, just always ask, show me how you did that.
Mhm.
Um, and even if you're an adult, it's still like, oh, I like the way you got your little home studio set up. Show me how you did that. What did you buy? How did you, just ask questions. And everybody won't be necessarily receptive to giving detailed answers, but some people will. And it's like a cheat code, like when you play the video game, like you don't have to struggle to figure it out. Somebody else already figured out how to get past that level. Ask them for the cheat code, like, well, what microphone do I order? And how do I set up this? And how do I start a blog? How do so it helps us if we can find somebody who can shorten the path. Of course, you want to be respectful. You want to bite anybody completely and do exactly what they're doing. But as far as obtaining the skills and just the knowledge that somebody has, I think people are open to it. They may be taken aback sometimes by the question, but if you can teach a child to ask
Yeah.
how instead of just being recipient, but asking to show me how, you can really anticipate having a productive child.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I totally agree. So tell me a little bit about we're going to walk into you being a physician for just a moment, and I want to ask a question like, how do we prepare parents, right? When they're coming in with their children and they're trying to advocate for their children as best that they can, what are some tips or some go-tos to give to parents as they're going in, as they're looking for physicians, as they're trying to find people to meet the needs, especially culturally? How would you advise parents to go about seeking a physician, a pediatrician that best would fit their family?
Well, this is gonna be funny. Because there's so many books out there now that give people a list
Right.
to come interview a physician, and it honestly annoys us to some degree. It's
Exactly.
the questions. Everybody's on the same website with the same list of questions. So, um, so what I've done is we took the most commonly asked questions for our office that we all received, and I made a document. So I was like, okay, it's out here one time with all the answers to all the questions that you got off of that blog, out of that parenting book for the first time moms. It's all here, so your answers are there. Okay. Then if you have more questions, then we have a system set up to get those questions answered. But really what you're looking for is demographics matter some. To a lot of people, it matters your age and your gender and your race when it comes to, like I said, the cultural aspects of medicine, because it's the art of medicine. So it's not always what you say, it's how you say it. Um, so I have, of course, a lot of minority families. Um, I'm bilingual, so I have a lot of Spanish speaking families. I have a lot of interracial adoptions for the same reason, because usually the adopters are Black children to non-Black parents, and they I think they're even told now to try to find some connections that look like your child.
Right.
Um, so demographics matters to people. Um, Also, try to find a space that works with your lifestyle. So if you're somebody who is very much, you need weekends and you need nights, you need to look for that. You need to look for that specifically. If you're somebody who's very much time driven, then you're going to you don't want a place that's walk-ins only, because that's not time driven. You're gonna have to wait for that. So for some people though, that works better to do walk-ins only, because you can't keep an appointment because of the way your stuff is set up. So the way the system works, how tech savvy is the organization. If you're very tech savvy and you want to be able to go on and book your appointments yourself and not have to sit there and call traditionally and speak to somebody and be put on hold, look for those things if you want electronic access to a lot of things. So that does a lot of the work itself. By the time you get those things, you've already like cut it down a lot.
Yeah.
So if you're like, okay, I want a Black female, 30s to 40s, and I want her to be high tech, and I want her to, and I want her to be this distance from me. Okay.
And this just went like this.
So that's already done most of the work. And then from that point, it's going to be personality fit. It's just like finding a psychiatrist. Sometimes I tell people, you can't go to one psychiatrist and say, I didn't like it. I don't like therapy. Right. You didn't like that. Y'all just didn't. It's like speed dating. Y'all just didn't click. Right. So sometimes I tell people, don't overthink it. If the office works for you because it's the right office with the right hours and the right tech and the right processes, see a doctor. Y'all don't click, see a different one. Mm-hmm. We're not gonna take it personal. We probably won't even remember. So, I'm like, don't overthink it so hard. Just pick one. And then sometimes you'll have people who are not my patient, but I'm covering for somebody, and then we see each other and really click, and then they're like, well, can I switch to you? And I'm like, you ain't gotta whisper,
We not married.
You ain't gotta whisper, baby. It's all right. So, that's your prerogative. It does, from our end, it does kind of sting sometimes when you see somebody cheating on you. Like, what you doing down there? So we had, but you get, that's being a young doctor. Once you've been in the game long enough, you don't even take that personal. So you find a person you click with. I could tell you, like, from my own office, each of us has a different personality because we're different people, and we were people before we were doctors. But we all have generally the same methodologies. Some of us you might have a doctor that's more cautious, that orders a lot more testing, which some families like. Some families want all the tests, and some families are more, if it's a problem, let me know, and then I'll do that stuff, but otherwise don't do all that extra. They don't want to do all of that. So there are so many things in the personality that will really decide if it's going to be a match or, swipe left, swipe right, whatever. So, so if you just start out with the key things, look at age. Age is important because people want experience. Unfortunately, when you're really young, starting out, it is hard to get that buy-in from families. So age matters. Conversely, sometimes people don't want much older docs because they feel like they're not going to be with all the new stuff, and they want somebody that's a little bit fresher. So it's almost like we sometimes feel like we're selling ourselves, like running for homecoming or student council or whatever. You gotta like, girl, I gotta take my picture over because
I need to look a little younger. I need to look a little fresher, and I need to make sure my tech is up to date.
Right. Yeah. So all of that stuff matters to people, and it's all, even if it's subconscious, you know, they've done research that proves that with the post surveys that families get, the slightest thing can lower your score.
Yeah.
Um, and being of two different ethnic groups will lower your score. Traditionally, doctors of color score lower on those um, customer patient surveys.
Mm.
And all that's going to be about how you mesh personality and socially, has nothing to do with the practice of medicine.
Yep.
I've known doctors who were not good from my standpoint, you know, but have wonderful scores online. And it's just because they're, you know, they have the right politics and the right mannerisms. Male doctors, people love them. People will do what a male doctor says much easier than they do for a female doctor,
Wow.
because it's authority. It's built-in authority with being a male doctor. Um, that's just what it is. It impacts every job.
Yep.
So it does. And so that's why, like with the surveys and stuff, I try not to really look at them. Like I like glance, but I try not to really look, because I'm like, you can't take that stuff personal. It's because people are people. If they had a bad day, if they had to wait outside, if it's X, Y, or Z, that's just the way it is. And so, well, yeah, I have to explain that to the parents and also to the younger physicians that that's just the way it is.
Right.
And take it personally, do the best that you can. Always apologize for being late. Um, and that's all you can do. That's all you can do. Because y'all know we always late. But let me tell you why we late though. Most of the time it's not us. Most, all it takes is one person to show up 6 minutes late, and next person to show up 4 minutes late, and then somebody else to, unfortunately, people have problems, and you think you're going there for this, and then they confess that they've been feeling this way, and they got these thoughts running through their brain, and you're like, hold on, we're supposed to be talking about a rash, and you okay, so we doing something today. Now we talking about I gotta call an emergency therapist. Like, like it changes like while you're in the room. And it snowballs sometimes. But I always explain to parents, one day it could be your child and you don't want me to be rushing, saying I only got 10 minutes, baby, you're gonna have to hurry up. If I just saw cut marks on your kid's arm. Like I can't rush it. So thank goodness your visit is a short one. I always encourage people, if you're in a time crunch, like me, when I'm off work and I have to do something, give me the first appointment in the morning or the first one after lunch, because I'm in a time crunch. Anything after that, you don't know what's going to happen.
That's right.
So have to be patient. And I think, like I said, this year has taught everybody a huge lesson in patience. And I think going forward, hopefully that will help us always keep stuff in perspective.
And operating grace too,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. It's rough.
It is. It's rough out here in these pandemic streets. So I'm so glad that you highlighted that. And I also love that you kind of place a focus on children's mental health too. Um, I know that with our kids being cooped up since March, this is taking a toll on kids. So, what are some tips you have for parents to kind of help um, ease some of the stress that is associated with this? Because I know many kids who already were suffering from anxiety or things like that, it's now double downing on them because they don't know how to manage.
um, there is going to definitely have to be some you have to balance it. When you feel like the mental health is at risk, then you might do something that's a little bit more risky as far as COVID. Okay, I think you need a play date. We're going to make this happen. Or you need, some time. My child is trying to get in the camera, so ignore her. Bam, go. Let her get her moment. Come on.
Hey, baby.
Okay.
Those are the best.
So you have to balance it. Sometimes children do need to see another child. outside of their house, even if they have siblings. Sometimes they just need to see somebody else.
Yeah.
And so you're playing with another parent that you know has a similar lifestyle. Say, hey, we're gonna chill a lot for the next, week or two and plan something for at the end of that time. So, you try to plan it out ahead of time and say, hey, you know, if it's another family, like if you're not going to school, there's another family that's not going to school, and y'all working from home, and or this person works in the office, but they have pretty safe procedures or whatever. You try to find somebody who is as risk averse as you are, with a similar lifestyle, and set a date and say, hey, we're gonna plan to do something with the kids on this day. Still try to wear a mask. Still do it outdoors if at all possible. Sometimes it's not possible.
Right.
And then respectfully, if you do have an engagement like that, then for the next 10 days after that, you try to, go back in the bubble to make sure ain't none of y'all sick before y'all go do something else.
Right.
So, like my kids had some play dates. She's pretty young, so wearing a mask is not her forte. But we'll do a play date and then we'll hold our breath for 10 days, and then we'll, we might do another one, 3 weeks later with somebody else after we're kind of all, been in the clear. But it's been very limited and with only 1 or 2 families during this time. And we try to do extra stuff to try to make sure that, we a little bit over the top with the, with the Amazon orders of
yes.
entertainment. Yes. But I only got 1, so I got to make sure she, is good. So
That's right. Listen, we've had a lot more glitter and a lot more paint and a lot more, doing different things like that in order to just maintain that sanity. So all of those tips are excellent tips. I didn't even think about, matching family kind of dynamics and same schedules and things like that to make your play days, because that makes perfect sense now that you've said it out loud.
Yeah. And even like for Thanksgiving, I'm not going home because my mom is older and I work in a high risk, field. So, just looking at changing the environment, renting a house somewhere else. It's just a different house with a different size yard and maybe some different play equipment just to be somewhere different but still be together.
Right.
Be safe. So those are things people can look forward to for the holidays. It's important to protect the seniors during the holidays. I know what we're accustomed to, but I'm hopeful that by this time next year, we will have some good vaccine out so that some of our traditional settings can be more easily, accomplished without any, concern. But for this holiday season, I think it's a good idea to, take a plate, drop it off outside, let them, put the iPad in the middle of the table and let them have dinner virtually with us, in a different space, but still with us. If you're not close to your mom, have somebody from your hometown take her, somebody who could take her plate.
Right. Not just anybody.
I'm gonna be like, that wasn't right. So things like that, I think are really helpful to start thinking about. And provide for my mom or for my grandmom during this time. I need to charge my iPad. Can I pause real quick?
Of course.
I can do that.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about just we've been talking and kind of touching a little bit on what 2020 has taught us. So if you had to sum up 2020 and the lessons you've learned outside of patience and flexibility, as a physician, as a mom, as a Black woman, what is 2020 given to you? What is it taken away from you? What are we walking out of 2020 with?
I think 2020, your clear vision, we have seen a lot, even amongst ourselves, of how we approach things differently. And like for me, I have to learn to accept that everybody's going to do things differently.
Yeah.
Have no control over that. And at some point you can't even judge it anymore. You just have to say, that's your choice. This is my choice. Everything that has happened this year, everybody has had to make a choice or take a stance, from the police brutality, the pandemic, the elections, like everything that has happened. you have had to make a choice as far as what side of it you're going to stand on. And sometimes those choices don't even align with each other because
Yes.
because like when I'm scared of the virus, but I gotta go down here and protest. Okay, I'm gonna do it with my mask on, but you ain't got, it's like everything is, you have to make choices. And sometimes those choices, they may change 2 days later
Yep.
because you're like, I'm going in a hole. I'm not coming out because of COVID. Oh, I gotta come back out. Okay, I'm going back in the hole again, y'all. So
It's been very groundhogish.
right. So this has been a lot about, making choices, trying to stick with those choices, and learning that you can change your mind about your choice later on and double back. And I hate to say it, it is what it is, but this year is like, that's been like the slogan of the year. It's like, what are you going to do? School ain't open. It is what it is, this district open beside you, but this one didn't open. But what we gonna do? I mean, we could buy a house over there, but it is what it is. We're not. So this year has really been showing us that people have the independence to make choices that you may not like, but you can't do nothing about it. Okay, that's their choice. So if your friend want to go to happy hour and do the thing, on the weekend, all you can do is say, let me go sit somewhere else Monday, because I don't want to sit by your cubicle because you was doing what you had to do on Friday. You can't say it to them, but in your head, okay, you got a lot going on.
Here with that COVID cough. Yeah.
Right. So it's all about accepting other people's choices, figuring out your choices, and knowing that the two have nothing to do with each other. And then trying not to, make so much of a characterization based on their choice, because people are doing what they have to do for, for themselves right now. And we accept it. There are times when you can kind of get a little bit heated about certain stuff, like, if your brother out there doing bad and he want to come to your mama's house, now you might have to call him out on that, because you'd be like, you've been out there not distancing, you can't come to mama's house. So there's some where you can speak up. Yeah. But for the most part, everybody's just in their own lane right now, and that's okay. People shouldn't be afraid to tell you what they're doing. I think in the beginning people were, because there was a big social stigma about doing things that were considered unsafe. Mm-hmm. And now it's just more like everybody's tired. Sometimes people are going to cut up a little bit and do some extra stuff. It might be a one-time thing. It might be a lifestyle for them. But the rest of us just have to make the best decision for ourselves and our family and just keep it moving. Now, as far as the politics and stuff goes, that's been very revealing, for some of us to see kind of the sides that people land on when it comes to lending their support to people. Here's an example. There's a group that I belong to on Facebook that is full of female physicians, 20,000 of them probably. So it's a huge network. And I don't post on there very much.
Right.
I posted the one that you had that I saw on your page where when all the drama started, and there was somebody that said something about, basically about doctors feeling holier than thou, and, we trying to figure out basically about medical apartheid and disparity in healthcare. And so I dropped that, that screenshot on that group of women. It started a huge conversation, which was a good conversation. Very therapeutic conversation for the Black women in the group. And I think there were some people who actually, you could see from the change in their posts, how some of them started changing their minds and walking back some of the thoughts they had before. So that was good, because it incited some conversation. So I think it has been a year of growth for some people, because people are airing out some things and clearing some things up that they haven't said before. There are going to be some people who are going to double down and, not really want to hear anything different. But I think it had to give us some clarity to a lot of people, because they're being exposed to conversations that they hadn't had before. So I definitely feel like good is coming out of this year. In some ways, we spend a lot more time with our families.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would have never thought that I could be in this house with my husband for this long, and it would be okay. I was like, you know what we're doing, all right.
Like, you know what? I like you. You kind of
Right.
fun. My husband's like, you kind of fun too. And it's funny because I don't know if you remember, but just a few days ago, the memory popped up where he divorced me on Facebook. And I was like, you know, when we got divorced on Facebook about 2 years ago, he was like, if you don't stop bringing that up, I was like, but look at where we are now. We've been in the house since March
Right.
and we're still kicking it.
I think that forced companionship has been good, as far as sorting through some stuff and refiguring each other out. So I think it's allowed for reconnection in that sense. I think it has allowed for clarity on some of our social issues. We still got work to do. We still got a lot of work to do, but it has allowed us to at least vocalize some things. As a people, we have a long way to go to structure our agenda. But
Lord.
yes, but I definitely feel like we have definitely started vocalizing more. I think people have started listening. Um, and I think the crazies have exposed themselves, and that's good too. We need the information. I need to,
We need to know.
yeah, I need to know everybody's crazy. And that's not a problem. I need identifiers. I have no problem with hood sheets, anything. I need them to be visible so I can have a good understanding of what's happening.
Right. So I can be aware of my surroundings.
Right, right.
Exactly. Exactly. I am so, so grateful that you took our time in your schedule to like spend with me, to reminisce, to share just your journey, to really just solidify what I already knew. I already knew you were a dope black woman. I know you're a dope black doctor, dope black wife, dope black mom, but you're just dope. So it's like I'm so excited just to see the manifestation of who you are and who I knew you were going to be. This is me looking up as a little girl saying, she's something special. She's gonna be something special. I want to be like her when I grow up. And saying, in that I thought I wanted to be a doctor, but that's not really my ministry. My ministry is people and healing people, but in a different way.
Mm.
And so I am so grateful that our paths are able to cross, that we're able to reconnect, and that I'm able to share you with this platform because you just dropped some gems on us on a lot of levels. So just to know who you are and what you share with people, those that you want to be able to share with, because you do provide a lot of great information just from your social media, the social media that you're interested in sharing with people. If you are interested in how can people follow you, or how can people learn more about you? Do you have a LinkedIn or something that you're willing to share with the people?
Well, most of my stuff on social media, the only thing that I keep and make personal is my Facebook.
Mhm.
Because I have to keep that away from my professional life, which is kind of, you know, it's that profession comes with a lot of layers to it as far
Absolutely.
as protecting that bubble. Um, so that's why you see my Facebook name is in my maiden name. So that, but definitely, if they follow you on Facebook, they can find me in your Facebook, Erica Lynn Thomas. So I'm open to request that way. I'm open to doing blogs and podcasts. I actually want to do one, but I just never have set it up. So I'm
We
definitely
gonna
open
work on that, sis. We gonna work on it. I got you. I got you.
to social things that I want to talk about. We could probably do this every day. Every day something happens. Something happens every day that I'm like, I need to say something about that. So definitely anybody who is doing any kind of engagements or something and wants somebody to speak, I'm willing to do that. I have anybody can email me also if somebody has some information that they want to share with me that they want to put out there. So elthomas1979 at Gmail. If there's anything that you need somebody to participate in or to help in, because I can't sit here and talk about mentoring and not be willing to do it,
Right.
So definitely if anybody wants to get connected with me in that way, my professional pages on Twitter and on Instagram are going to be with my MD on it. So I don't answer medical questions on there, but I definitely can answer questions that are non-specific medical questions.
Right.
if so, I don't answer like look at this picture, what is this? I'm not gonna do that. But if somebody questions like what do you think about kids and this or whatever, then I can do that from my either my Twitter or my from my Twitter account. And let me tell you what that Twitter name is. I don't want to tell you the wrong name, so let me look it up. I'm like an old lady. Hold on.
Let me hold on. Let me scroll so I can find this real quick.
Let me show it to you. But it's at PD, like pediatrics, PD underscore baby.
Okay.
PD underscore baby. If somebody wants to ask me a question or get me involved in something, you can hit me up on Twitter. And like I said, also on Facebook. But
Yes.
available for whoever needs a non-medical consult.
Listen, I'm going to be leaning into you because I have several young lady groups that I work with that we need to see more Black women doctors. So I'm going to lean into you and call on you to be a part of that. Also, I got a tribe of dope Black women and we talk about all kind of stuff. So I would absolutely love to add you to the tribe.
With I know scientists, I know entrepreneurs, I know, like professors in molecular biology and stuff like that. Like we need all those women need to be more. Um, so definitely let me know, and I'm gonna also probably shoot you some names too of some other people who I think would be great for you to talk to and get into their information because there is a network here. We're spread out, but thanks to social media, we're able to get everybody back connected again, which is another advantage of the pandemic because we are really using social media to its advantage. Um,
Absolutely.
I mean, Zoom has become like water, pretty much. Like you just gotta have it. So
Yes, yes, it is.
yeah, so I'm glad to see that you're doing this. If you need anything else from me, just let me know.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Everybody be sure to check her out. We got this dope Black doctor. Thank you so much, Dr. Davis, for coming through. That's our time.